Now let us start our today's discussion on the economy section, which was covered in GS paper 3 of mains examination in the year of 2023. We'll start off with the first question of GS paper 3, and the question said, faster economic growth, it requires increased share of manufacturing sector in GDP, particularly that of MSMEs. And this question, it asks us to comment on the present policies of the government in this regard. Now it is important to note that this question is a 10-marker question. Hence, you have to answer this question in just 150 words. Now, manufacturing sector, it is important from growth, development as well as employment perspective of the Indian economy. And this syllabus is mentioned in the first topic of GS paper 3 syllabus. Hence, it is important from UPSC mains point of view. Further, you will ask what is the possible reason for the UPSC to ask this question. And it is because the manufacturing sector in particular has been the government's focus for past many years. And in the last 1 year in particular, you will find many news articles related to PLI scheme as well as different incentives for furthering the manufacturing sector in India. Also, whether this question was foundational or current based. Now the base of this question, it comes from the static syllabus of UPSC. Hence, this was a conceptual question, but you also need to answer this question from a current knowledge perspective. As the question, it demands you to add present policies of the government with respect to MSMEs. Now, what is the nature of this question? Now, prima facie, this question is easy in nature because it asks you to answer this question from a basic manufacturing point of view. However, what is challenging in this question is that a student, he has too much content on this particular topic. Hence, to condense all this content into a 150-worder question is a challenge which we've already highlighted down here. Now let us understand what is this question and how should we write this question in 3 parts, that is introduction, body as well as conclusion. Now there is no better way to answer a question in the economy section rather than to start this question with a fact. Now this question asks in particular that faster economic growth, it requires increased share of manufacturing sector. Now, why do we need increased share? Because currently the manufacturing sector, it accounts for about 16 to 17% of India's GDP in total. Also, this sector, it is responsible for about 12% of employment of country's workforce. While on the other hand, the agriculture sector, it accounts for about 45% of total country's workforce. Hence, any government policy, it should focus on transferring this particular share of employment to manufacturing sector, because manufacturing is a more economically productive activity when you compare with agriculture sector. Now also you have to answer this question with regards to MSMEs. And in this regard, MSMEs, they account for about 45% of country's total manufacturing output. Hence, to increase the share of manufacturing, we also need to focus on increasing the share of MSMEs in the manufacturing sector. Now, why is manufacturing sector important from an economic point of view? Because developments in manufacturing sector will increase country's employment. It will also help address both backward and forward linkages with other industries as well. And additionally, it will also help government achieve the target of $5 trillion economy as soon as possible. Now, after we have dealt with introduction, let us see what should be the body of this answer. Now, the first policy of government in regards to increasing the manufacturing share with regards to MSME sector. Now, government currently, it extends several benefits to MSMEs in particular. For example, it exempts MSMEs from many labor laws regulations. Also, it provides MSMEs credit under the priority sector lending targets. Further, the government, it also favors procurement of products from MSMEs by public sector companies. For example, GEM portal, it particularly focuses on products from MSME sector. Also, government provides the lenders with a credit guarantee for lending to MSMEs. And this is done through credit guarantee fund scheme of the government. Also, government has brought forward the GST composition scheme, which provides for relaxed regulatory fillings by MSMEs, which aims to enhance the ease of doing business to these MSMEs in particular. Now, through these incentives, what the government wants to achieve is to increase the share of MSMEs by making them more productive, create additional jobs, and foster entrepreneurship in general. But this is not what is happening currently, because these incentives, they are provided to every MSME, which is irrespective of their age. And hence, in a way, these incentives, they are acting as perverse incentives, which, as these incentives, they encourage MSMEs to remain small, because only when they are small, they'll be able to achieve these benefits from the government. Hence, what it is leading to is that MSMEs, they are staying small, that is, they are employing less than 100 people, and thereby they have low productivity and also create less number of jobs as was desired by the government. Further, there are also other initiatives by the government that favors the manufacturing sector. For example, government recently made changes in MSME definition. Government, it brought a composite criteria for MSMEs, which combined both turnover as well as investment criteria into one single composite criteria. Further, what government also did was increasing this threshold so that more enterprises are covered into this definition of MSMEs. However, there were other recommendations by UK Sinha committee as well, and they were making changes to MSME Facilitation Council, and these recommendations, they need to be further implemented in making these changes more effective in bringing forward the manufacturing sector contributions by these MSMEs. Further, government also introduced PLI scheme for 14 different sectors, and these sectors, they include auto components as well as textile and apparel sector. And these two sectors in particular, they are MSME incentives. Now you will ask why this PLI scheme was covered in today's discussion. Because in general, PLI scheme, it aims to enhance countries' domestic manufacturing capabilities. And when larger companies, they qualify for these PLI incentives, they will procure products from MSMEs as their raw materials. Hence, in a way, it will promote the MSME share in country's manufacturing sector. Also, government had introduced previously what is called special economic zones. And these special economic zones, they created about 2.5 million jobs, as well as they account for 26% share in country's export currently. However, these SEZs, they face many challenges. For example, these SEZs, they currently face non-utilization of their space currently. Also, products that they are manufactured in these SEZs, when they are sold in domestic markets, they are subjected to full custom duties, and which makes these products less competitive as compared to other products. Also, government recently consolidated 44 labor laws into 4 labor codes. And these 4 labor codes, it means that the returns which enterprises file for labor laws, it has become easier because you're only required currently to file returns for just 4 labor laws as against 44 previously. But however, these labor laws, they are under different stages of implementation. And only when their implementation is completed, then we can say these labor laws will be reformed completely. Further, government has also started to impose custom duty on finished imported products. For example, government recently it banned imports of laptops as well as other computer materials as well as other computer products. And this restriction, it aims to enhance country's domestic manufacturing capabilities. Because laptop manufacturers currently, they have to meet the increased domestic demands only through domestic manufacturing capabilities. But also this measure, it is seen as a protectionist policy, which goes against the original 1991 liberalization reforms that were undertaken by the government in the year of 1991. There are other measures as well. For example, government has signed many foreign trade agreements as well as brought forward Make in India initiative, both of which are intended to promote exports and increase the share of manufacturing in the domestic sector. Now, after we have dealt with the body of this answer, let us take a look at what should be the conclusion for this answer. Now, you have to conclude all this body into a short conclusion. And in this regard, you can say that the government, it needs to implement Baba Kalyani committee recommendations, which was formed for improvement of SEZ's functioning, as well as UK Sena committee recommendation, which was brought forward for reforms in the country's MSME sector. Also, the government wants to increase the share of India in the global value chains, because only then the country's domestic products will be more competitive as against products from other countries. Hence, in order to get industrialized, we need to understand that we need to increase the share of manufacturing in the economy. And this can be done by following 3 measures. Hence, this was all for today's discussion on first question of GS paper 3 this year.